Warrior, episode 7. God damn, 7. We're almost done. Because I think we're only getting 10 episodes. Yeah, episode 7. You must be crooked to survive and live in crooked world. I feel like every single title. I know every title for every episode comes from a line that a certain character says in the episode, but they all sound like they're coming from Chow. Like, I don't know why. I can just like whenever I read a title, I just hear Chow's voice like saying the thing. Anyway, it's Icon back with another review for you, going over that Warrior, and everybody and their mama was in this episode, and I don't know where to begin and where to start from because it was all over the place, and when too many people are involved, it's hard to keep track. But let's follow as best we can and hope I don't leave anything out, or anything of importance anyway. We'll just stick to the important stuff. So the fallout from last episode when they killed all the oh yeah, that was another thing, my bad on that one, because they were German and I called them Irish like 15 times, and it was so weird because they said German. There was even the moment where Hassan was like, I don't speak German. And I knew they were German, but for some reason, it's like, because the thing with the show, because the show was about basically the Irish versus the Chinese, I'm so used to the Irish that when I see like Caucasian characters basically shitting on like minority characters, I just automatically assume they're Irish because of how the show is going. And then when I was doing my editing for the episode and I heard myself call them Irish, that's when I was like, wait, weren't they German? But anyway, so yeah, my bad on that one. So the fallout from the Germans, like when they killed the Germans. So Father June, he got shot, and they bring him back to Hopway territory, back to the healer. They remove the bullet, and I guess they pumped him full of pain medication or like painkillers or something because he was out of it. He was losing his shit. He was going around like seeing things. He was acting a little crazy. And then it just got to a point where he just got up and walked away because he started like hallucinating and having visions on his past. Young Joon finds out that he's gone. He freaks out, and then he gathers the troops to go find his daddy. Now, if I can speak on a toy real quick, because she's still running things. She's running things at the brothel. And I guess she's not the only brothel in town, obviously. There's another brothel that is under the protection of my Ling's Tong. And he was upset because I guess the Irish or the white man or the cops or whoever, somebody raided his whorehouse at some point. His girls came up missing. Or maybe Miss Davenport bought them or whatever. Anyway, he lost a lot of his girls, and they ended up with Miss Davenport. But because of that, they're with a toy now. Homeboy came back, I guess, when he found out that his old girls were with the toy. He rolled up in her brothel. He was just like, yeah, I want my whores back. And then she was like, no. She said that these women were free to make their own choice, and they prefer to be with me. So then the guy tried to attack her, and then, she got some good licks in, but she's still not 100%. She's still feeling the effects of the fire and her she's still feeling the effects of the season 2 ass whooping. Like, the girl's not 100% yet. Like, she's struggling. But because of that, and then like Lai, she sees everything. Like, she sees what's going on. And then when, and to Toy's credit, because there was like 2 or 3 guys that ran up on her, she knocked one guy down the stairs. She took the other one out. And then while she was fighting the guy that wanted his girls back, he got a good shot and like hit her in the face, and then the toy kind of like toppled a little bit, and then after that, that's when like Lai came in, and then like she knocked the guy, and then like this big bouncer looking dude showed up, so a toy was smart enough to get some backup, but then Lai kicked homeboy off the banister, he went crashing through a table, and then she was like, get him out of my sight. But the problem with that is Lai was looking at a toy the whole time, and she was just like, girl, you ain't got it. Because Lai is still trying to get revenge. She wants to get revenge on everybody that that wronged Miss Davenport, the girls. She wants to get revenge for the girls who died in the fire, and she's looking at a toy now, and she's just like, I can't do that with you because you ain't got it. She was like, you're not 100%. But because she's young and dumb, she thinks that she is ready, and she thinks that she is 100%. But she gave a toy the look of, I'm gonna have to do this behind your back without you, because you ain't got what it takes no more. So she's gonna go rogue at some point, and then the toy's gonna have to reel her in. Later on, the guy who owns his brothel, he cried to Mai Ling about what happened to him. So Mai Ling brought a toy in, and then she was just like, oh, I'm not gonna have you give back the whores. no, she said the girls. She's like, I'm not gonna have you give back the girls. But she was like, he's under my protection and he needs to be compensated. So Mai Ling threw him some change, and then he was just like, oh, this isn't enough money. And then she was like, it would have been more, but you owe me a new table. And then he got mad, and then that's when Mai Ling stepped in, and she was like, sit down. And then she told him, she was like straight up, she said, you lost your girls on your own. So she said, by rights, a toy owes you shit, but she graciously decided to pay you for your loss and your compensation, so take the money and get the hell out of here. He takes the Chisange and he leaves, and then that's when Mai Ling walks up to a toy, and then she's like, I'd like to invite you to my wedding. And then Atoy was shocked. She was just like, oh, okay. Because she's just like, we need to meet under better circumstances and we need to bring each other together. We got to bring Chinatown together. So she said it starts with my wedding. So, because she's getting married, like her and homeboy getting married. I think his name is Juan. Like her and Juan are getting married. So she invited Atoy. Now, Assam, he's basically been struggling. Because with the whole thing that happened with the Germans and everything, he feels bad for what happened to Father June, the fact that Father June got shot. And he's talking to the printer's daughter about it, and he's trying to, say, I don't know what to do, and I feel guilty. And then, she tried to talk him down, and she was just like, well, you're not like the rest of them. Like, you're different. And the reason why you're torn between all this is because you haven't chosen a side, if you want to be Hop Wei or if you want to be a freedom fighter. And then he doesn't know what to do. And then she's just like, come here, baby. And I guess they continued to do whatever they were doing. So then later on after that, the two of them are having sex on the printer, and then Mai Ling walks in, and then she's just like, oh, can I speak to my brother? And then homegirl leaves, and then she's just like, I'd like to invite you to my wedding because me and Juan are getting married. And then he's just like, you want to invite me to your wedding because we're in business? And she's like, no, silly, it's because you're my brother. So then he accepted, he gracious, maybe he'll give her away. I mean, I don't know the Chinese marital customs, but maybe he'll walk his sister down the aisle, and then everybody will be happy because the wedding's supposed to take place in next week's episode. So he said yes, and then she was like, oh, bring your lovely friend. And then Mai Ling walked away. So now there's two people that she invited to the wedding. And I have to give Mai Ling credit because in this episode, she's actually doing a good job of trying to bring Chinatown together. There's no viciousness, there's no ultimatum. Mai Ling seems genuinely happy and genuinely wanting to bring the community together, obviously so everybody can worship her at her wedding. But I can't, in this particular episode, I can't look at Mai Ling and be like, oh, I don't trust her, she's doing something. She really didn't. Mai Ling was actually chill the entire episode. I can't even front. But maybe getting married does that to you. So now we have a wedding to plan for. But unfortunately, the Irish are still in play because Mr. Leary, he's still fighting for the common man, and then him and the guy that he's been with, the guy that sunk Miss Davenport's operation, the two of them have a conversation with Buckley, and they're just like, Mr. Buckley, we can basically win you the race. The question is, do you want to win the race or not? And then Buckley was just like, well, I do want to win the race, but I don't like owing favors. He said, well, this is a simple favor. He said, we hand the race over to you, and then in return, you make sure our political needs get met. Hiring Irish labor instead of the Chinese labor. So he was just like, well, if you could make do on your promise, maybe we'll be in business. So that's what they do. So they ended up when they basically won him the race because, and I didn't realize this, when they had the last episode when they were walking around due to high society and Larry was walking around with high society, I didn't realize that the guy whose daughter had sex with the servant who had a kid out of wedlock that he ended up raising as his own, I didn't realize that was the guy running for mayor. So basically they just decided they were going to out him as having an illegitimate child or his daughter not being pure. And because they dangled that carrot over his head, they forced him to drop out of the race. He dropped out of the race and conceded to Buckley. He went over to Buckley, who's like, you piece of shit, you guys like you will never win. And he was just like, well, I'll give you a shout out during my mayoral acceptance speech. And then he goes to the woman that he's been seeing for the past few episodes, and then he bent her over the table. Now, my whole thing is, as soon as he walked to the room, she was like, oh, I hear congratulations are in order that you won the mayorship. And I'm like, how did she know that? I don't trust her. I flat out don't trust her. And I still say, because there's only one character in this, well, two characters, but there's only one character specifically throughout this entire season who has not made an appearance so far, and that's Penny. So I still feel this woman who's cozying up to Buckley, I still feel she's a plant by Penny somehow, maybe one of Penny's cousins or one of her aunties or something like that. This woman's working for Penny, and she's trying to get into Mayor Buckley's operation to sink him, because there was no way, they don't have smartphones, they don't have television. There was no way she could have known he won the mayoral campaign that quickly. But anyway, like I said, Buckley got him some, so he looking like the man right now, and he's failed himself, but we'll see what happens with the Buckley situation. Earlier in the episode, the two Irish guys that Leary got jobs for, but they ruined those jobs because they didn't want to work with the Chinese. They ended up, breaking into a Chinese grocery shop, and they beat up the grocer. And then, to my surprise, the police actually arrested them and took them to prison. Their father went to Leary, and he was just like, look, my boys are good boys. He was like, they don't deserve it. And he was like, they fucking robbed somebody. Which for some reason, Leary didn't count that as an actual crime, because he went to the chief of police, and he was just like, oh, you got two guys in your holding cell like they're good boys. He said they didn't commit a crime. They just robbed a Chinaman. okay. So, but then the chief of police, he pulled out their rap sheet and he was like, oh, they've done this, they've done this, they've done that. And he was just like, look, like they're shit and they're gonna, they're gonna rot and I believe in justice. And then Leary was just like, I don't think you want to make an enemy out of me. And then the guy told him to kick rocks. And this is the same guy who got bitched out by the Secret Service. More on that later. Leary goes back to the bar and then all the guys, the Irish guys are at his bar and they're just like, oh, there's no justice for us. We got to get justice and blah, blah, blah. Like they're all pissed off and they want to go down to Chinatown and crack some skulls. Leary's just like, no, because last time we did that, good Irish men died. He was like, we lost a lot of people, so let's not be stupid here. And then they were just like, oh, but you're not on our side, Leary. And he's like, motherfuckers. He said, I've been hobnobbing with the rich for the last 2 weeks trying to get you sons of bitches jobs. And it's like, y'all don't appreciate shit. So he was just like, look, stay here. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is saving your asses, and I'm going to go handle the Chinese. So because Young Joon was still walking around trying to find his daddy, Leary ran up on Assam, and he was just like, look, keep your people out of China. He said, keep your people out of the pond. And then he was like, well, keep your people out of Chinese grocery shops. And then they had a nice little exchange, a nice little back and forth. And I do have to give Leary credit for this. Leary was extremely calm. He was extremely level-headed, and he was very fair and honest in his approach and his conversation. It was actually Assam who was being the dick, like during that whole exchange, because I thought Leary was going to go down there, like with attitude and try to like butch up it, but he was actually really cool about it. He was like, look, he told him, he said, listen, nobody wants bloodshed. He's like, you lost people, we lost people, we don't want to lose any more people, and I'm holding my people back from coming in here. So he said, you keep your people in Chinatown, I'll keep my people out of Chinatown, and then we can hopefully make peace. Assam told him, he was like, look, he said, I don't run Chinatown. He's like, I'm not the man around here. And then he's like, motherfucker, there's a 10-foot tall poster of you on the side of the wall. So then he was just like, all right, I'll see what I can do. And then Leary goes, he's like, shit, I've actually never been to Chinatown before. And then he's like, make a habit of it. So he leaves. Assam finds the guys that ran up on the Irish, because there were these rogue Chinese guys who actually ran up on and beat up on the guys that I guess that helped with the grocer. Like they helped like beat up the grocery store guy. So they're basically going rogue and they're trying to get revenge. So because an Irish man got beat up, that's why like the whole Irish people, they got all like, in their feelings about it and everything, and they wanted revenge and everything. So then Assam found out who these guys were. He ran up on them at the whorehouse, and he was just like, look, he said, we're trying to avoid another riot. We're trying to avoid losing more lives. So he was just like, bro, he said, if you ever do some shit like that again, you're going to have to answer to me, and let that be a lesson. If anybody goes into the pond, you're going to have to deal with me. But then the guy actually said, because he was just like, because when Assam was like, what were you thinking? Why would you go into the pond and like and attack one of the Irish? And he was like, oh, we were doing what you would have done. Because see, now he's become a symbol, and that's not what Assam wants. He doesn't want to be a symbol to the people. But the printer's daughter did say, she was just like, you're more than just a Hopway soldier. She was like, you could be a symbol of hope for the people. And then she actually told him that she's been stealing money, and then he got mad and he was like, don't do that shit no more. But so anyway, so after that, like, he told the guy, he said, put the word out, if anybody goes into the pond, they're gonna have to answer to me. And then him and Atoy smoked some marijuana. I forgot, like, the thing is, when Atoy and Hazam were sitting there smoking weed, I thought the two of them were gonna have sex. I was like, no, he's with the printer's daughter, I gotta remember that. So anyway, so him and Atoy had a nice conversation, and they were talking, and they both were just like, you going to your sister's wedding? He was like, shit, are you going to my sister's wedding? And they both said yes. So they're going to be at the wedding next week, where all shenanigans are going to break loose. Young Joon finally found his daddy, who wandered into Long Z territory, because I guess he was hallucinating and actually looking for the head of the Long Z, because he kept saying, Long Z, bring your ass out of here, let's do this once and for all. So like I said, like he's on pain medication or something that he hallucinated. But then Juan came outside. Like, I forgot the dude's name, the guy that Mai Ling is marrying. I keep forgetting. He's the only character on the show at this point whose name I can't fucking remember. I'm just gonna call him Juan. So then he comes outside, and then he talks Father Joon off the ledge, puts his jacket around him, and brings Father Joon back, to Hopway territory, brings him back to Young Joon, and then Young Joon has to, say thank you, and then that's what set Young Joon off, because at the end of the episode, Young Joon was just like, oh, I don't trust Assam, and he was like, Hopway business should be Hopway business. There are too many outsiders involved. See, but Young Joon's problem is that Mai Ling and the Long Z are actually being nice. Mai Ling is being nice to everybody. She's inviting people to her wedding. She's trying to make peace between two different factions. Like her boyfriend, fiance, he did the honorable thing by returning Father Joon, like to his tong. On Mai Ling's end, they're actually being good people. And for some reason, that's setting Young Joon off. And I think that's what's really bothering him, because he doesn't want peace. You know, like he wants to establish himself as his own individual person. And he's like, these motherfuckers, it's like, you ever try to be mad at somebody, and the more mad you are at the more the person shows you kindness, the more harder it is to be mad at them. Like, I think that's where Young Joon is right now. Like, he wants to hate everybody and he can't. So the only person he can hate is Assam, because he's just like, he's like, Assam doesn't have my back. I don't know if I can trust him. I don't know if I can trust him. So that's gonna be the whole thing. He gonna throw the pity party over, like, you know, this whole situation. And then there's gonna be a moment where like Young Joon and Assam end up getting into a fight, and I don't know who's gonna reel that shit in, but we'll see how that goes. As far as other characters are concerned, Richard and Chow, they came back from Louisiana. They came back from the South after, you know, he killed his entire family. And then the black dude, like, that set him up, you know, he was just like, he went back to his sister-in-law, and then he was just like, your boyfriend, you know, he had other issues, and, you know, he had bounty on his head, and he's just like, sooner or later, he was like, the past catches up with you. And then he was just like, yeah, he came out of nowhere. And then Chow came out of nowhere. The sister shot him. So now the brother-in-law dead, so we ain't got to worry about the black dude no more. And then, although she shot him in the chest with a shotgun, Chow just popped him in the head for good measure. And then after that, you ain't see Chow again. And then the Secret Service guy came back, and he spoke to Richard, and he was just like, look, just because your family situation has been resolved, he said that murder shit is still on your record, and we can still hold that against you. So he was just like, look, it was your idea to go talk to Chow when we got ambushed, and I thought this dude died. You know, he was like, you know, I got ambushed. He said, I took a bullet for you. I got sliced from chin, you know, from nose to ear and everything. So he's like, somebody's gonna pay for this shit. So until I get these plates back, he was like, you know, you still work for the Secret Service, otherwise we're gonna throw your ass in prison. So now Richard got to take the badge back, which is gonna make everybody happy. And speaking of not making people happy, Big Bill, he's working for his brother-in-law, who made him start from the bottom to work his way to the top. So now Bill's like, he's in the mud, in the thick of it, doing hard labor with the rest of the workers, which he's not really, I mean, he can do it, but, you know, he's not accustomed to it, because like, he's a former police officer. A lot of the guys that work there, they're younger than Bill is. So Bill's just kind of struggling a little bit. His brother-in-law is being kind of an ass, but at least his wife recognizes his sacrifice and his hard work, and she was just like, well, Big Bill, she's like, I'm gonna give you some later. You know, so at least Bill got that going on, but it's not gonna last long, because there's going to be a moment where Bill ends up, something's going to happen to the current chief of police, and then Bill's going to get brought back onto the police force. Because if Bill is not going back to the police force, there is no reason to still have him on the show. You know what I'm saying? It's like they could have wrote him off the show, but he's still on the show because he's not going to stay there forever. So it's only a matter of time for Big Bill comes back. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was all the important stuff that happened in the episode. I can't remember if I forgot anything, as weird as that sounds. But if so, that was how the episode ended, and thank you for tuning in. There is a lot happening on this show right now. And because we just concluded episode 7, and there's only 3 episodes left, like, yeah, like, things are starting to pick up. Like I said, we got the Myling wedding. There's the whole thing about the printer's daughter stealing money because she's trying to make an escape. You know, Father June going crazy. Big Bill working for working for his brother-in-law. Like, the whole thing with Leary and everything. Like, there's a lot of shit going on in this episode, but it's all set, and it's setting us up for the season finale. So I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait to see where everything goes from here. So check me out on, well, I don't know if we call it Twitter anymore. Check me out on Twitter X and on Instagram, where you can share your questions, comments, and concerns. There is a lot of stuff to review right now, because they gave us 3 episodes of Harley Quinn. Goddamn, we still got My Adventures of Superman, and also go on my channel for the season finale of Marvel's Secret Invasion, and for more Warrior stuff, because we got episode 8 of Warrior coming next week. So that was it, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Until next time, with some Warrior action, take care, and you do not have to be evil to fight evil. Until next time, we're at this. Yeah.